And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Elaine Starling, who had a near-death experience due to a stroke, which we're going to learn about and more. Elaine, thanks for joining me and welcome.
Thank you so much, Jeff. It's wonderful to be here with you.
Well, it's wonderful to have you. And if you don't mind, Elaine, let's start on the day that you had the stroke and go from there.
Yeah, it was a really interesting experience because I'd actually was on vacation in New Zealand on the South Island. We'd been there for over a week, and it was New Year's Day, 2005. There were a few little shops open. We'd had breakfast. We were poking in and out of shops, and I got this kind of tunnel vision with sparkles around the outside of my vision. And my balance got a little wonky. So my husband sat me down on a park bench, and all of a sudden my right arm went numb and the right side of my face went numb. And those are classic symptoms of a stroke. So they walked me to a little medical center and they gave me an aspirin and asked me to describe a poster on the wall. And I knew exactly what they said. I knew exactly what the poster had on it, but the words that came out of my mouth made absolutely no sense. Now, it was really interesting because I just felt very tired. I felt great. It was more like a super lazy Saturday morning where I just wanted to hit the snooze alarm and roll over, and go back to sleep. So finally, I asked them if I could take a nap. And they said, yes, I could relax. And as soon as I did, I found myself inside this massive cloud. And I was a part of it, and it was a part of me. And then I felt the cloud say, "This is perfect." And somehow I knew the cloud was talking about me. And I'm far from perfect. So I replied back, "Are you kidding me? I don't speak multiple languages. I haven't solved world hunger. I am not all that." And I heard back, "Oh, you don't understand how this works. See, you're designed with your skills, abilities, talents, interests, and preferences, as well as your faults, your foibles, your issues, your hot buttons, your challenges. And we put all of those things together to create exactly what is needed right now. You are perfect because of your imperfections, not in spite of them." And I had this, oh my God, Toto, we are not in Kansas anymore kind of moment. And I realized I was having a conversation with my higher power. And it just went on from there. I would think a question, and as soon as the question came up, I'd get the answer back in my body, 360 degrees, past, present, future, colors beyond what we can see, sounds beyond what we can hear, just everything. I call it, it was kind of like swallowing Google whole every time. All the likes, the shares, the videos, the keywords, you name it, everything all at once. And it was spectacular. It was really interesting. At one point, I felt like I was almost in this alcove with God having this conversation. And here goes Jesus. And, you do the head nod, and there's Buddha, and there's Muhammad, Einstein, Beethoven, all the people that you've admired, right? You're just kind of like, yeah, but I got to stay with this conversation. And it was a really fascinating conversation. And the questions, it started to slow down a little bit. And then I got the question, "Are you sure you're done?" I was like, "Oh, no, we're halfway through our vacation. We're loving New Zealand. It's really awesome. You should check it out." "Oh, right. You probably know about it." But no, we're not done. And I heard, yeah. You were saying about a month ago that you were done thrashing. You were really struggling with your business and you were tired of trying to figure it out. So you were just going to give up and accept the status quo. If you're sure you're done, we can use that ectoplasm for something else. Are you sure you're done? And I knew I was really close to a breakthrough, and it was super important. It was why I was here. And if I chose to stay, I'd have to start all over again from the very beginning to get back to where I was now. So I said, "No, I'm not done." And I heard, "Great, get back and get busy." I came out of the stroke, no damage whatsoever.
While you were asleep, were you unconscious?
No, technically, I was not unconscious. I had these experiences, and when I came out of the stroke, I was actually in the back of an ambulance because they were taking me to a hospital. They didn't have a hospital in Queenstown, so they took me down to Invercargill, which is about a 2.5 hour drive. And I was in the back of the ambulance on the outskirts of town. We were about to get to the hospital. And by the time I got there and they checked me out, I had no symptoms. And they said, hey, it's New Year's Day. Nobody's here. It's a big vacation time. You don't have a problem now. So there's nothing we can do for you. Go home and get checked out by your doctors at home. And I did. I got checked out by doctors at Stanford and doctors near where I live in Sacramento. And they can't tell that anything happened. The only proof I have is the hospital bill. And I kind of like it like that.
Interesting. They didn't give you any other type of blood thinner or anything?
No, other than the aspirin, that was the only thing that they gave me. And the side effect is that it really ignited my connection with what I call the divine. So I get divine downloads all the time. And it was really interesting. After that experience, I didn't tell anybody about it for 3 years, not even my husband. It freaked me out so bad. You hear about people having trauma, but they don't tell you about good trauma. This was so good. I wasn't sure I believed it. And I kept getting messages. I kept getting insights. I kept getting guidance to the point where I had to admit that it was my reality. This is real for me. I do get these messages all the time. And sometimes I understand them and sometimes they don't quite make sense to me. I've gotten now used to sharing the messages that come through because sometimes the messages aren't for me. They're for someone else that I'm having a conversation with. And it's only through that collaboration that then the message comes through.
You call them divine downloads. Are you saying that the information is coming from God, some quantum field, or is it still coming from your higher self or higher power?
To me, it feels like it's coming from infinite intelligence. It feels like something far greater than me. Let me give you a little example. A few months ago, I was in my kitchen doing dishes. And I was just kind of musing over, sometimes you've got a project that you're working on and it's no big deal. It's a snap, it's a breeze, comes together, no problem. And then there's other times that you're working on a project and it's just a slog. It doesn't matter what you do. You hit roadblock, problem, challenge, issue. It is just beyond frustrating. And I was just kind of wondering, why does that happen? And I immediately felt and heard a very loud, forceful voice in my body that said, when you deny your power is denied to you. When you acknowledge your power is shown to you. You are more powerful than you can imagine. And I was like, holy mackerel, I dried my hands. I went and wrote it down. I'm like, shoot, how am I denying my power? I don't want to do that anymore. That's bad news. What am I doing? How am I denying my power? And I finally realized that sometimes the words we use actually diminish our power. They undermine us in subtle ways. I'm getting used to avoiding words like want, which leaves me wanting, need, which makes me needy, and try, which is very trying. Instead, I say words like I choose, I decide, I intend, I desire, I am, because that is clearly owning my power. And everything shifted as soon as I started acknowledging my power.
So are you saying that you denied your power unintentionally?
I didn't know I had power. See, that's the thing, because I was shown that we are actually in partnership with the divine. One of the biggest misunderstandings we have as human beings is we often think that we're this tiny little ant down here on earth, and there's this big, massive thing that we call God or infinite intelligence or the universe. And this big, massive thing, maybe it'll pay attention to the little tiny ant, but good luck with that, right? No. In reality, we are equal partners with the divine. It was really interesting. I was doing something called the 7-day mental diet. I don't know if you've ever heard of this before. It was an idea that came up in the 1930s. And the concept is for 7 days in a row, you do not blame, shame, gossip, complain, or criticize anything or anyone or any situation. So no negative stuff coming out of you, and you don't expose yourself to anything negative. So no watching the news, no horror stories, no violence, none of that stuff. So only good stuff in, only good stuff out. So this particular day, I was doing the 7-day mental diet. practice. It is a practice. And I'm in the grocery store. And I kid you not, every single aisle, somebody was having a fight. They were arguing about something. And I get to the checkout line, and there's these big headlines about a natural disaster. And I overhear somebody talking about a horrible conflict somewhere in the world. So I take my groceries out to the car. I sit down, I connect with the divine, and I'm like, seriously, I'm trying to stay positive right now. What the hell? You are not helping here. And I got a message. We are guiding you, and you are guiding us. Every time you see something that you don't personally know how to fix, like a natural disaster, the homeless situation, a big conflict somewhere in the world, we expect you to immediately envision everyone involved or impacted two energetic levels above where they are now. Right now, they're in the flames. We want you to envision them as the phoenix and send them love and blessings so that we can help them. We are guiding you, and you are guiding us.
Besides these downloads, did you get any other abilities from your NDE?
My intuition has sharpened for sure. I tend to live in a state of perpetual delight, joy, wonder, gratitude. I do have my slightly down moments, but I pop out of them really fast. It's funny, I work with a lot of people, and I always say, we are weebles. We wobble, but we don't fall down. And really, the whole concept came from a message I received during my stroke. One of the most profound messages that I was given, they asked me a rhetorical question. They said, okay, everything is love. You are love. The air you're breathing is love. The chair you're sitting in is love. The God of your understanding is love. So, how do you expand love when everything already is love? I didn't know. I didn't have a clue. And they said, well, we decided to create human beings who don't think that everything is love. And because you don't think that everything is love, you get the experience of contrast, the difference between what is wanted and what is not wanted. And that friction gives you the superpower of choice. You either step back in fear, trying to stick with the familiar and prove that you are right with what you already know, or you deliberately step forward with grateful curiosity, open vulnerability, and love. Every time you step forward, you expand the divine, you create more love. Being in physical form is the expansion joint of the divine. That's why you've been physical many times in the past, and you will be physical many times in the future, because this is the rock star place to be. You're like a surfer who loves catching a wave, and sometimes they're really massive, gnarly waves, and you have an awesome ride. And sometimes they're a little wimpy, they kind of peter out fast, but it doesn't matter. You're in the flow. You're getting to participate in the expansion of the divine. That's why you're here.
Has the memory of this interaction with your higher self during your stroke faded over time?
I don't think so, because I get these downloads all the time. If anything, it's more, it's kind of like having your television tuned. If you remember back in the day when you had the antennas and you actually had to like wiggle the antenna to get the signal just right and get the movement of the faces to line up with the audio. It's kind of like I've been fine tuning that connection so that I'm getting a much better, richer signal. It was super perfect during my stroke. And then it got kind of fuzzy again. And now I've been tuning it, tuning it, tuning it. And so I get a much better connection now.
While you were in the cloud having the conversation with your higher self and you saw Jesus and Buddha and other beings going by, did you note that there were any other entities there?
I definitely felt other entities. I could feel my husband's presence, the nurse, the doctor. I could feel other people. I could feel furniture. I could feel all kinds of things. And after the stroke, I realized what I was sensing were atoms. The cloud that I experienced were all the atoms that everything is made up of. It's all the energy that contributes to everything we experience. So it was just a really extraordinary opportunity to realize we have that connection. We are a part of it, and it is a part of us. Yeah, we are all one.
It's fascinating that you use the word cloud because in chemistry, they'll talk about where the electron is as a potential. I think they would say it's potentially somewhere in a cloud like space.
It absolutely is. It's really interesting. I also did some research on this, and scientists will tell you that if you imagine that the nucleus of an atom is about the size of a peanut, then the entire space of the atom would take up a whole baseball field with all the parking lots around it. And those tiny little electrons and positrons and neutrons and all the rest of them, they're bouncing around inside all that empty space, quote unquote. And what I was shown is that the God of your understanding is what's occupying that, quote, empty space. It is not empty. We are literally the embodiment of the divine. We are a we are a condensate of the divine, if that makes sense.
Would you say we are all collectively the divine?
We are definitely part of it because every planet, every star, everything is part of the divine, along with all human beings, all animals, all plants, all rocks and sand and everything, water, you name it. We are all connected. We are all part of the energy, and we can influence the energy. We can direct the energy.
So while you were in that cloud, would you say there were multiple atoms?
Yeah, there are trillions of atoms around us all the time. I mean, if you think about it, it's not just the chair you're sitting in, it's the air you're breathing. That has a ton of different atoms floating around in it too. We can't see a lot of the atoms that we experience, and we're made up of hundreds of trillions of atoms ourselves. So, yeah, if all you're seeing are atoms, everything is made up of that. So, it would look like a great big cloud, right?
Mhm. Well, after your NDE, at some point you got into abundance, spiritual abundance, I believe. How did you evolve into that?
Basically, because I was shown that everything is designed to be a blessing for us. Absolutely everything. And we have disconnected ourselves from the truth of who we are. The divine is within every single one of us. And yet we think that we're only human. And so we put restrictions on ourselves of what we can experience and what we can enjoy. And I was guided to do the work that I'm doing. I get downloads that tell me this is what we want you to share. And that's how I do everything. All of my work, all my coaching, my show, The Abundance Journey, it's all based on the guidance that I receive and the direction that I'm guided to take.
Many guests would say that we come here to learn and Earth is a school, and that the only way for us to experience it properly would be to forget completely about the other side. So where do we kind of draw the line between forgetting about the other side and how powerful we really are and being a creator compared to, okay, we are this powerful creator and then we're kind of not really learning the lessons that we're supposed to be?
The difference is there are layers to your experience. And growth is not a line, it's not a straight line. The way we like to see our nice, neat little charts and have it go straight up, that's not what happens. It's a spiral. So you go back and you experience something again, like you feel like you're kind of trapped in this ongoing situation. No, you've actually grown. You're at a higher level of consciousness. And now you come back to experience it a second time. And because you removed a layer the last time, you're experiencing it again at a much higher state. So you're able to remove even more. So if you imagine that it's kind of like a pipe, a plumbing pipe, and there's a lot of stuff that's collected on the inside of the pipe. So it's slowing the flow and the quality of the water isn't that great. Well, what we're doing is every time we remove a limiting belief, we remove a misunderstanding, we choose to stand in our divine selves and show up with that love and gratitude. That's when things start to fall away that prevent us from having these divine downloads and these incredible experiences. Abundance is actually a form of energy, and it's something that you can experience whenever you want to. It's an energy where you feel excited, delighted, uh, just happy that you're having this experience, that something amazing is about to happen for you. And when you're willing to step into that space, it starts with what I call grateful curiosity. Grateful curiosity is a really powerful state of being because it gets you fully present in the moment. You're leaning in a little bit. You're curious. You're interested. You're open to receive all the blessings that are present for you. So you're really tuned in for all of those things that can help expand you, excite and delight you. So yeah, it's an ongoing experience of abundance. That's what life really is, and that's why I call my show The Abundance Journey.
What do you think are some of the misconceptions that people have about abundance?
They think that it's only money, and it's really not. I've worked with a lot of different people, especially folks who are entrepreneurs and have a small business. And inevitably, the first thing they say is revenue, show me the money. Yesterday would be really good. In fact, if I could win the lottery today, that'd be even better. So revenue comes first, and then they figure their reputation will be made. Once I have lots of money coming in, everybody's going to know who I am. I'll have people lined up around the block to buy my stuff. And then they think I can have relationships with people I've admired for years. Me and Oprah, BFFs on speed dial. And then I push to find out what else would be really cool. What else would you really like? What else would be fulfilling for you? And finally, they admit, I can't have it yet because I haven't earned it. I have to work really hard. But someday, I'd love to create an incredibly rewarding experience where just me being there and being a part of the experience made incredible difference for people. I can't have it all the time, but man, just a nanosecond of that would feel awesome. And the problem is they're trying to do life backwards because no matter what you do, it always starts with a rewarding experience that you are. It's the difference you create by the way you see the world, the way you experience the world, the way you express yourself, the stories you share, the values you hold, the gratitude you contribute. Once you've got that rewarding experience there, that's why people are attracted to you in the first place, to have a relationship with you. And you control your standards, but you don't control your reputation. Your relationships will tell the rest of the world who you are being for them. And when those three things are in place, the revenue is unavoidable. It's a byproduct. People don't realize that money is the energy of gratitude. You pay your electric bill because it's really nice to have electricity. You are so grateful for it that you write the check and you have no problem paying it. I mean, yeah, it's kind of pricey, but hey, it's worth it. Same thing for the water. There's nothing like having running water in your house. Try it. If you don't, try it without. And trust me, you'll like it having it on. Everything, everything that you want to experience begins with gratitude. So, how can you get yourself into a space to notice all the things that you're grateful for in your life? And sometimes it's something like going through allergy season and not being able to breathe easily. And now you can. It's like, wow, I really like being able to breathe easily without my nose running all the time. Everything is available to you when you step into gratitude.
I think there are many people out there that have put in the time and they keep asking themselves, why am I not more successful? Why haven't I made it big? If you unpack those people, what do you usually find?
I find a symptom that I call, are we there yet? If you imagine little kids in the back seat, right? And you're going somewhere like Disneyland and they can't wait to get there. And they're constantly saying, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? We as human beings are collaborating with the divine to create what we choose to experience in life. And then we make the mistake of going, okay, I picked up my pen. Where's my New York Times bestseller? It's a joyous unfolding. You are guided to every single step of the way. So when you can get into that space of eager anticipation, wonder, delight, and notice how you're guided. Notice the perfect people showing up for you. Notice the information that's coming through. Notice the wonderful things that you can be grateful for every day. You are divinely guided to whatever it is you choose to create. But when we put a time limit on it, yeah, forget about that. You know, that's the whole old expression, man makes plans and God laughs. Right, because everything's on divine timing and things can happen much faster than you anticipate when you're open to it. Often we put limits on it because we think, oh, well, I have to do this first and I have to get that done. And then once I do this, then I can have that. So you can choose to say, I let the divine stay in charge of the how it gets done. I focus on the what is mine to do. And then I let the divine figure out how to get it done.
Prior to your NDE, what was your spiritual life like? And did you have any interest in any of this stuff?
You know, it's kind of interesting. I grew up as a Quaker, and I always considered it kind of the ultimate hippie religion because we had silent meeting and we would all come together and sit in silence. And whenever you felt motivated because you got a message from God, then you would just speak your message that you received out to the group. And at the end of the meeting, everyone shook hands and, then went off to do their own thing. So that was kind of my experience of religion. I didn't really have a religion that I practiced as an adult. And I was very aware of different religions, but they didn't appeal to me because they weren't as accessible. The divine had a layer, lots of layers and lots of rules between me and the divine. And I knew I wanted a more open relationship. And so I didn't strictly practice a religion. I always felt closest to God in nature. And so that's one of the reasons why I live in a more rural area where everybody in my neighborhood is on a minimum of 10 acres, because I really like having nature and wildlife around me.
In your book, Steps to Activate Your Abundance, you outline 5 steps to activate it. Can you briefly share with us what those steps are and how they work together?
Absolutely. So you can take anything that you are thinking about in your world, in your life. You can take anything and turn it into abundance. So one of the things that I did not say, but I want to make sure I communicate since we are talking about near-death experiences, you've been physical many times in the past and you will be physical many times in the future. I have absolutely no fear of death and dying because I know from personal experience, it is a graduation. It is not an ending. And the best example comparison that I can make to that is kind of like the difference between kindergarten and first grade. When I was in kindergarten, we had nap time. When I went to first grade, no more nap time. When you're physical, you have a body. When you're not physical, you don't have a body. But there's still a whole lot more going on, and it's all really interesting and really fun. And if you choose to, you have the opportunity to come back and be physical again and have a whole new experience that continues to enrich and expand your soul and benefit the divine as a whole. It's part of the game. Okay. So I just want to give you that as a background. And now I'm going to take you through the 5 steps. The first step is always gratitude. Everything you want to experience begins with gratitude. You want to have a great relationship, you got to be grateful for the connection before you can have a great relationship. Everything starts with gratitude. So I'm really grateful that I get to have this experience with you and share this opportunity, because abundance is all around us and we can turn it into tangible physical reality whenever we want to. How cool is that? That's something to be grateful for. The second step is to acknowledge something you heard that was an aha for you. So maybe it's an aha for you that you don't end, you graduate. And that creates a little bit of a shift in your thinking, because maybe you don't know exactly what that looks like, but you know a lot of people who are able to connect with folks who have transitioned. So you know there's something more, even though you don't remember going through that experience. How cool is that? there's more. But wait, there's more. It's like the ultimate infomercial, okay? That's really what you're doing here. Step 3 is to appreciate the difference it can make in your life. When you know that you transition into something that is a different form, but still you, it releases all of the fear, all of the frustration, all of the anxiety that you might have about that experience, whether it's your own transition or someone you love who is graduating. You don't have to freak out about it anymore. Now you can get curious. Remember that power of grateful curiosity? You can get curious. I wonder how that works. I wonder what kinds of conversations I can have with my loved ones, no matter what state they're in, whether they're physical or non-physical. Step 4 is to activate it. And I've found 3 different ways that we can take a concept and turn it into a physical, tangible reality. The first way is schedule time to get it done. And I include journaling with this. So if you want to have a conversation with one of your parents who has passed or a good friend who's passed, it's pretty straightforward. You can ask a question and sit in silence and receive information. Just start writing. Don't criticize it. Don't judge it. Don't evaluate it. Just start writing. Write until you feel complete and then ask another question. Is there anything else you want me to know? Is there anything else I should cover here? And you just keep writing. And then when you're done, sit back and read it out loud. You'll be amazed at the messages that come through because it's not just you. We always like to think egotistically that it's all us. No, you're connecting with others in other forms. If you choose to, it's a choice. You don't have to. So the first way is to schedule time to get it done. And I include journaling with that. The second way is to create a physical trigger, like crossing your fingers or tugging on your earlobe as a reminder, I can connect anytime I want to. I have power. Am I acknowledging my power? In which case I say, of course I can connect with infinite intelligence. I'm connecting right now. I choose to, as I step into this conversation, I choose to let my human self get out of the way and let infinite intelligence flow through me as me to answer every question because they have a much broader perspective on what is valuable to everyone who's participating. And I want that value to come through and not have me get in the way. So I have a little physical trigger that reminds me, okay, time to connect and let it flow. Then the third way is to work with what I call an abundance buddy. Most people call them accountability buddies, but I'm all about abundance. So this is someone who knows you and loves you and gets you. And you can say, look, this is how I'm choosing to show up. I'm choosing to experience my life as a perpetual expression of divine intelligence. And so it's not always me interacting with people, it's actually divine intelligence interacting. And I have the ability to connect with anyone in whatever state they're in, physical or non-physical. So if I forget that I can do this and I start pretending that there's separation, please remind me. So I step back into owning my power. So those are the 3 ways that we activate abundance. So step 5 is celebrate your progress, because this is a continual unfolding. You're hearing this because you're ready. You're ready to have this experience, and you don't have to die first. You can have it right now. I continually connect with both my parents and my in-laws. It's been really interesting. My dad always worried about me merging onto the freeway. I'm a great driver, but he was always worried about it. So to this day, he clears space for me. I always check. I always make sure I have room to merge. But inevitably, there's a big open space for me to get on the freeway. So I say, hey, thanks, Dad. Love you. Miss you. Yeah, they're all around us all the time, sending us messages. When you're willing to receive the messages, then they can get through.
I believe that we're talking about manifestation, and it's easy, well, not easy, but it's most commonly talked about people manifesting good things. But what about not paying attention and manifesting bad things?
It's really interesting because a lot of religions talk about the difference between heaven and hell. And it's very clear that both heaven and hell are present at the exact same time. It's all a matter of where you are putting your attention. It starts with your intention. I'm pointing at my heart. This is what you choose to create and how you choose to feel about it. Then you focus your attention on whatever is working that aligns with your intention. There are lots of things that don't align with your intention, tons of things happening that are not what you choose to experience. And again, anytime you are exposed to something that is way bigger than you, that makes you feel nervous or uncomfortable, the political situation, the wars that are going on around the world, we know we can guide the divine. So we immediately imagine everyone involved or impacted as two energetic levels above where they are now. We send them love and blessings, and we direct divine energy to support them. And we can also do that to support us because we feel a little bit lost. So we can ask for that divine guidance at the same time and allow it to come through.
What would you say makes your work different from The Secret?
Oh, wow. The Secret is a fabulous, fabulous book, wonderful movie. It ignited a huge trend where people are much more aware of the power that they hold. The thing that I'm doing is really helping people remember who they are because we get born into this world and then we get indoctrinated with all of the trainings from our teachers and our parents and our world. And we forget that we are the divine in physical form and we abdicate our power. We give it away, we deny our power. And so I'm helping people reclaim their power, rediscover who they are, and show up as the fullness of who they are so that they fall in love with life again, fall in love with themselves again, and experience the abundance that they truly are. So there are a lot of similarities with The Secret. There are a lot of similarities with other people because anyone who is helping you lift your consciousness and expand your ability to love your life, we're all addressing that in slightly different ways. And some will resonate with me and some will resonate with others. And I'm just really grateful that there are so many of us doing this work. There's another thing that I'd like to share with everybody because one of the biggest mistakes we make is we accidentally think that we don't matter. You think, well, it's great for me to feel better about myself, but isn't that kind of egotistical? Isn't that kind of all about me? You know, maybe I don't want to go there because I want to be a more altruistic person. Well, I was guided to read a wonderful book called Connected. It's got a very long subtitle, The Surprising Power of Our Social Networks and How They Shape Our Lives. Just remember Connected. It's written by two social scientists who work at two different universities, and they were really curious about that whole 6 degrees of separation thing. So they got a bunch of grad students together and did a massive study, and they discovered something that they call the 3 degrees of influence rule. It turns out that you have influence over your friends, 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 3 levels away from you. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. I wonder how many people that is. So I asked Dr. Google, and she came back with a recently published article in the New York Times citing research that states the average American knows about 600 people. And I thought, what? No way in the world I know 600 people. So I asked a couple of friends of mine that are very knowledgeable, and they said, oh, that's really low, closer to 1,000 people. And I was like, okay, fine, time out. I didn't do the math. These researchers did the math. Let's just pretend that 600 is the right number and see what happens. So if you imagine a bullseye where you're at the center of the bullseye and there are 3 rings around you representing the friends, 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 that first ring is the 600 people that you know. And they all know 600 people. That's 360,000 people. And they all know 600 people. That's 216 million people. Now, according to the social scientists who wrote the book Connected, everything you think, feel, say, and do ripples out to 216,360,600 people. Just you being you is incredibly powerful. That's not the freaky part. Here's where it gets really cool, awesomely freaky. Okay. Because they want to know what's the impact that you have. Well, it turns out that when you come from higher consciousness and you're in gratitude and you are enjoying life, those 600 people in your first ring are 15% more likely to also be in gratitude and also love their life. And the 360,000 people are 10% more likely to be loving life and be in gratitude just because you are. And the 216 million people that you're convinced there's not a way in the world, oh yeah, 6% more likely to be coming from gratitude and loving their life just because you are. So don't think you don't matter. You make such a massive difference just by being You, you are brilliant. You are a blessing, and you are blessed.
Have you compiled a list of the most common limiting beliefs? And if so, can you share some with us?
The most common limiting belief, number one, is I am not enough. That has always been my go-to. The second most common belief is things have to be difficult or hard. And the third limiting belief is, yeah, but I don't know how to do it.
How is that a limiting belief? I don't know how to do
It's,
it.
I don't know how to do it because a lot of people think, well, I don't know how to do that. So why would I even try? We shut ourselves down without even trying. And that's where there's so much opportunity. There's so much opportunity to rediscover who we are. Because yeah, if you think it's all you and only you and you don't have any help and you don't get any support from the divine, from the infinite, then yeah, your life is going to feel a lot more difficult because you're not living in gratitude and you're not open to receiving. And when you allow yourself to get into that space, to show up as the divine essence that you are, you start to tune in with things so that you experience them. You know, the thing with The Secret, and I get the whole thing about vibration, it really is true. If you aren't looking for things that you can enjoy, then you won't notice things to enjoy. One of my habits, and I usually warn people before I do this, I love to say, I'm so happy. I'm so grateful. I'm so blessed. And I say it with that level of energy because I know I'm putting that into the mirror of the universe. And it's going to reflect right back to me as soon as I make that contribution. One of the big challenges that people have is they think that if they see something they want that they don't have, like somebody else has a wonderful relationship or this awesome home or an incredible vacation, and I can't have that because I don't have that money, they feel like the universe is punishing them or saying, neener, neener, you can't have that. That's not true. The God of your understanding is a lot closer to a loving parent with a pre-verbal child. You've seen this before. You've seen the parent who goes, honey, do you want your bottle? No. Do you want your binky? No. Do you want your blankie? No. Do you want your toy? No. Every time you see something that you want, the God of your understanding is saying, you can have this. Would you like this? And they're looking for you to express gratitude and excitement and joy that you are witnessing this thing, because that's the sign that you're ready to start receiving it. When you step into jealousy, you step into lack because you've immediately told yourself, no, I can't have this. Nope, nope, not for me. I'm opting out. You don't have to. You can be excited that you've been shown this gift that is on its way to you. Get into that energy, and then you'll start to receive.
What other practical tips or applications can we do besides feeling gratitude to become more abundant?
Start looking at everything that you can make a difference with. So start looking at all the things that you love to do, things that excite and delight you. It can be things like just watching funny movies. Whatever it is, make a list of all the things that you love to do that light you up. And then figure out what you can do to do those things with other people, because a shared experience is an amplified experience. That will really help you expand your life. It's get into your own zone of the things you love to do and what lights you up, and then share that with others.
Are there limits to abundance due to our soul contract or what we're here to learn?
There are no limits to abundance because abundance is a form of energy. So, how you experience that abundance, you put limits on based on your human expression. So, I'm not going to tell you you can be a millionaire if you want to be a millionaire. If you are in the energy of loving every aspect of your life, you don't need to be a millionaire to have that incredible experience. Okay. So, one of the examples I like to use is, say you would love to take a trip to Italy. It's just been on your bucket list for a while. Man, that would be awesome, but you don't have the money and you're not sure what time would be a good time for you to go. So what you do is you immediately start researching all the things you can find out about Italy, the different areas. You look at pictures, you watch documentaries about it, you get cookbooks that have some of the best recipes throughout Italy. You do a potluck dinner with your friends where everybody brings a different meal, and you talk to people who've gone to Italy. You find out about what were their favorite things to do and what is the do not miss stuff. And then you even put together kind of a temporary itinerary and you play with it. And sometimes you move different things around on different days because you're imagining, this way I could take a boat here and I might do a bus there. And, I'm going to have a private tour guide for this part. And you just really get into the excitement, the energy, the anticipation of what you can experience. And you're having so much fun creating this trip to Italy before you ever go, that sometimes it happens. And sometimes you'll get a phone call from a friend who says, hey, somebody dropped out of the tour and there's a half price ticket. Do you want to go? And now all of a sudden you can go. And you didn't even need to, because you had so much fun with the experience of the trip without ever even going, that you win either way. You have control over that. You don't have to wait to experience abundance. You can experience it right now with your own energy and where you put your focus. What is your intention? Where is your attention?
Can our expectations of abundance be too big?
They are only too big when you attach a timeline, when you give it a deadline, because divine time is different from human time. There is no such thing as time in the divine. They're looking at, when you put a time on it, you're automatically assuming some lack. You're thinking that certain things have to happen before you can have something, before you can experience something, instead of choosing to experience it now and being grateful for the experience in this moment, knowing that ultimately the final experience you delight in will come to you, but you're not in the are we there yet. You got to get out of the are we there yet, or it's like trying to drive with the gas and the brakes on at the same time. You're sending mixed signals and you're slowing yourself down.
In your book, you encourage your readers to show up as their full selves. What does that mean?
You are the embodiment of the divine. You really are. So, one challenge that we wrestle with is not really loving ourselves very much. When you look in the mirror, do you see God looking back at you? Usually we don't. Usually we're busy going, oh man, if only I could lose that weight. If only I was a little younger. If only I was a little older. If only I was a little taller. If only I was a little shorter. If only I had that degree. If only, if only, if only. And yeah, you get to love yourself exactly as you are. And that's one of the big lessons that we are experiencing and unfolding in this lifetime. So anything you can do to accept yourself right now, exactly as you are right now, and see the divine inside you right now, you will experience exponential growth in who you are being. So the embodiment of the divine is showing up as your best self, higher consciousness. And it's not necessarily easy. I love the book Power versus Force by David Hawkins. I also love The Map of Consciousness Explained. I found it easier to understand with The Map of Consciousness Explained. But in both books, David Hawkins says, as soon as you commit to the vibration of love, and you are going to be the consciousness of love, that means everything that you experience in your life, you interpret as a form of love, no matter what it is. And the only thing you express is love and compassion, no matter what. As soon as you make that commitment, the opposite shows up. Why? Because we live in a world of duality where you have the choice. You get to recommit, 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 recommit. And people get frustrated with that. But the more you recommit to showing up as that embodiment of love, which is what you are, then the more easy it becomes. You start to train yourself. Instead of it being a temporary state, it becomes a permanent trait. There's a difference. A trait is something that you embody, that you express automatically just by who you are being. A state is a temporary, you can get that little high, but then you fall back down again. And it's learning to become the trait.
Well, after watching this podcast, people may want to find out more about you. Should they go to a website? And if so, what is it?
Yes, I'd love to meet everyone at theabundancejourney.com. And I also have information about the book and about my courses. And yeah, life is here to support you and empower you and inspire you and delight you. So it's all a matter of what you're paying attention to. Notice where your attention is going. Notice how you feel and be willing to look deeper at what's going on inside you, because old emotional trauma of any kind gets stuck in your body. And like I said, it can be good trauma as well as bad trauma. It can be something really good that happens and it freaks you out. You get an opportunity to look deeper at what happened and the meaning you put around it and the story you told yourself, so that once you see it clearly, it immediately dissipates and you are healed from that. And again, it's a spiral. So you may visit it again, but you'll come at it from a different perspective, a higher consciousness level, and it's easier to dissipate every time.
You're also a podcast host, right? What's the name of your podcast?
It's called The Abundance Journey. Just about everything in my life is called The Abundance Journey. Makes it really easy. Yeah. It is both a podcast and a YouTube video show. So, yeah.
All right. And you've also created the Spiral of Divine Abundance. What is that?
That's right. That is a 12-week course that I take people through that allows them to really look at what's happening in their lives and how they're experiencing life right now and rediscover who they truly are. It is an awakening. And yeah, pretty amazing what you can experience in your life when you choose to.
Elaine, before we finish up, can you give us one more positive message?
Oh boy, do I have to limit it to just one? Okay, so I'm going to share a true story. And it's okay if I go a little bit long. Okay, so I was running some errands and I was driving my husband's truck, and it's a fairly large vehicle. I was in a parking lot. I needed to get out of the space. And I'm always a little anxious about that because me and spatial awareness are distant acquaintances at best. So I'm carefully driving, backing up out of this parking space. And out of the corner of my eye, I see somebody flying through that parking lot like it was a racetrack. And I thought, man, that is not safe. And I'm backing up slowly, looking at the mirrors, turning around. And all of a sudden, I hear somebody honk. And it sounded like they were right behind me. Well, I went from happy, joy to pissed off in a nanosecond, just like, man, was I triggered. And I started making up this story about, I don't know who that person is, but clearly they weren't just dropped on their head as an infant. They were dribbled repeatedly. And I'm having a great time with my righteous indignation. And I get wait a minute. We keep telling you that every single moment is designed to be a blessing for you. You're making up a story that turns that honk into something that is not a blessing. We want you to deliberately make up a story that the moral of the story is that honk was a blessing. What does that sound like? And I had to think about it. But I thought, well, maybe I was about to hit something. And by immediately stopping, I didn't hit anything. And, if you'd had an accident, that would have been expensive, time consuming, a real pain in the neck. Yeah, not having an accident, that is a blessing. The other blessing, they had a different vantage point on where I was in the parking space. And maybe they just didn't have time to put their car in park, run around and go, hey, lady, you've got this, you're good to go. And as it happened, I did hit the brakes and I cranked on the wheel really hard and I squeaked out of that parking place. So maybe it was just a thumbs up. And then I got the real message. All this time, I've been the bad guy blocking my blessings. I've been blocking my blessings because I've been making up stories that it was actually not a blessing, that it was somehow against me, that it wasn't for me. And now I know that everything that happens, I have the opportunity to make up a story that this supports me, that this empowers me, that this enriches me, that this fosters my growth. And when I do that, that's when I receive that divine message.
Elaine, thank you for your message, and thank you for being my guest.
I really enjoyed it. I don't know that this was that much about near-death experiences, but it was pretty miraculous what I had. And I'm just so glad for the opportunity to share with everyone. Thank you for having me, Jeff.
You're welcome. Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.